winners and big draft losers. Hey, Peter Schrager, give me a big winner from the draft weekend.
The New York Giants are the biggest winners of draft weekend, and it's not just Thursday night. I loved their Saturday. Alexander, the defensive tackle, they interviewed him. He said, what do you want to do in the NFL? I want to take my opponent's will. Scatterboo, the running back, talked about how every single day of his life has been set so that he could prove people wrong. And Marcus Bowe, the big offensive lineman at the end, they said, what's your best skill? He says, demoralizing people. Giants got tougher. The Giants got better. Giants fans, it's been a rough couple years. Smile this morning.
Speaking of demoralized, Tannenbaum, give me a loser from this weekend.
DK Metcalf. He's the star receiver that they brought over from Seattle. Great staff from Hembo over the last 3 years. He's 6th in the NFL in vertical route production. And how about this? Assuming that Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback, I almost thought this was a misprint. Aaron Rodgers has one 300-yard passing game in his last 35 starts.
It's not very many.
No.
Okay. D-Wood, give me a winner from this weekend.
How about Drake May? Like, I really like what New England did. You go out there, obviously, the number 4 pick. You get Will Campbell to get the left tackle out of LSU, protect the blind side. Then you come back in the second round and get Travion Henderson, the explosive running back from Ohio State, to add some juice in the running game. And then in the third round, you get Kyle Williams, the wide receiver from Washington State, who I think he's going to play a factor in the passing game for the Pats. I like what the Patriots did.
4 offensive linemen they took.
Yeah, which is what they needed, and they went that way. And Will Campbell's attitude was unbelievable when they drafted him. Finally, Graziano, how about the most obvious loser in all of this?
Yeah, I mean, Shedeur and Dion, look, they hyped him up as a first-round pick. You know, Dion talking about him going top 5 overall for a while, and he ends up with a 5, all right, but it was the 5th round of the draft that he gets picked. It just, the entire sort of pre-draft process seemed to go very poorly for Shedeur Sanders, culminating in him lasting until...
It's going to be fascinating when everyone digs into all of the different elements of it. So by now you know what happened. We've spent a little bit of this morning diving into why it happened. I think, Peter, you sort of alluded to it, and I think there's a good point to be made here. You want your starting quarterback to be a star. You don't want your backup quarterback to be a star. There's nothing worse than having a backup. I mean, you once acquired Tim Tebow. Whether that was really your idea or not is a whole different conversation. But when Tim Tebow was your backup quarterback, you have a problem. It actually creates more issue than it is worth. And what became evident is that a lot of NFL teams, candidly, pretty much all the NFL teams that needed quarterbacks, didn't view Shedeur Sanders as a slam dunk starter. And that at that moment, his star power started working against him. The very thing that you would think would be a favorable quality starts, I think, to become a negative.
Agree. Let me push back on that a little bit, which is from a standpoint of Shedeur had the opportunity to prove he was a starter, and he didn't, and that's what's frustrating. When you look at some of the objective ways teams look at the pre-draft process, there's the Senior Bowl, which is an all-star game that's competitive. Then you have the Combine. Here's our graphic, and then you have players that run the 40-yard dash. Again, none of this is outcome determinative. There are plenty of great quarterbacks or good quarterbacks that don't do everything, but he did nothing. And if you're the New York Giants, as Peter alluded to earlier, they fell in love with Jackson Dart for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is he competed. And then above and beyond that, the pre-draft process, guys, fundamentally is a job interview. We have taken countless players off the board for failure to be prepared for that interview. When you're interviewing a prospect, you're trying to project, can they lead us? Can they be tough? And we're going to pay them millions of dollars more. And when you do that, their fundamental character comes out. And then you put that all together, Greeny, it's very obvious that he had good ability, but there were some big bumps in the road in the pre-draft interview process.
Yes, I don't think we're saying different things. I understand the point that you're making. They did not handle the entire last few months well, and that worked against him. At the end of the day, though, and D-Wood, I thought you said it well this morning, if NFL teams thought he was a surefire, they wouldn't have made any difference. Now, you brought up
Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams met with one team and
Right.
told everyone at the Combine, I don't necessarily need to sit with you. And guess what? He went 1st overall and is a franchise quarterback.
So what we learned from that is NFL teams didn't see it that way.
Yeah, like if he was that guy, if he was quote unquote him, as like a lot of people say, he would have won in the 1st round. Right. He would have been one of the highest drafted guys in the draft. But the NFL and all of these teams sent a message. And the message is, we don't view you as that guy. And so once that message was sent, now you start, the other aspect of Shedeur comes out. the stardom, everything that people talk about as it relates to Shedeur Sanders gets factored in. And what do NFL teams hate when it comes to guys who are not necessarily, frontline starters? They don't want distractions. That's how they view these type of things. And that's why Shedeur Sanders found himself drafted in the 5th round.
Okay, so we've said a lot of things. Lord knows a lot of words have been spoken about Shedeur Sanders over the last few days. Let's say some that I'm not sure I've heard anybody say. Considering how badly everything went for him, things turned out pretty well.
Yes, for sure.
Yes.
The NFL draft is not the end of a story. It's the beginning of one. This is the beginning of his story. Where he goes, and we just had all the names up on the screen a moment ago, that quarterback room in Cleveland, Deshaun Watson will never take another snap for the Cleveland Browns again. I'll be shocked if he does.
Probably.
Joe Flacco graduated from high school the year before I did. Yeah. Dylan Gabriel is not a prospect that people viewed in even the same category. I understand they took him before they took Shedeur, but I think there are extenuating circumstances in that. Kenny Pickett is on his 3rd team in as many years. I think Shedeur Sanders, if he is as good as he thinks he is, if he is even close to as good as his father thinks he is, I actually think he wound up in a great place where he has an excellent chance to be the starting quarterback.
I think you're absolutely right. They'll have a wide open quarterback competition. Now it may start with Flacco and Pickett at the forefront because they're the veterans, they have the experience, and the other guys have to be brought along. But if you're looking at it objectively and saying if he's as good as we thought he was before the draft, he can beat out Dylan Gabriel, Kenny Pickett, and Joe Flacco.
They had a great dinner after his visit with the Browns in Boulder, and the dinner included not only the coach and the owner and the GM, but Bill Musgrave came to that dinner, and Tommy Reese came to that dinner, and the whole staff. Bill Musgrave and Dion are very close, and that goes all the way back to their 49ers days. And you look at this situation, Stefanski as a coach, just pure football. Forget the fact we're talking about Shedeur and the pre-draft. Pure football. Stefanski has taken Case Keenum, and all due respect to Case Keenum, and they won a ton of games and got to the NFC Championship game. He's taken Kirk Cousins, and he has gotten the best out of him at Minnesota. Stefanski, for an undersized quarterback, might be the best guy in the entire league to work with this young man. It's going to be on both of them to make it happen.
And Greeny, for 3 months sitting here, I said I thought Shedeur Sanders was Kirk Cousins. So
right.
I think from a football scheme standpoint, this is perfect. And if the 5 of us were running the Cleveland Browns, we would give every benefit of every doubt to Dylan Gabriel, who, by the way, was a quarterback drafted before Shedeur Sanders, and Shedeur Sanders, much more about them being the future than Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think, ironically, put all the noise aside from a scheme standpoint, a coach standpoint, Shedeur is in the best situation possible.
What do you think of all this, D. Wood?
I tweeted out, I said Shedeur Sanders found himself in a great opportunity because obviously you guys talked about the quarterback room. There's not a guy that Shedeur Sanders should be afraid of in that quarterback room, number one. But more importantly for me, it's Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski, in my opinion, is one of the best play callers that we have in the National Football League. I thought he changed his offense to placate to Deshaun Watson, but those days are over with. He's going to go back to what he used to do, and if he does that with Shedeur Sanders' skill set, it will fit him perfectly.
It becomes now about what Shedeur Sanders has inside of him, right? Because he's never been an underdog, never had to